All right, guys, so what I've already done for you is I did this bottom section of this. So we have the reactants, or what goes into the equation, the products, what come out. Guys, what do we need for a plant? We need carbon dioxide, we need water, and our energy source for those autotrophs are sunlight. What do those plants let off? Oxygen and glucose, okay? They happen in autotrophs. They are able to use that sunlight and metabolize it to be able to get energy stored in the form of glucose. Well, not all eukaryotes can go through photosynthesis. So what do they have to do to produce their own energy? They can't use the sunlight. So they take in oxygen, they take in that stored glucose, and they produce carbon dioxide, water, and because we don't have sunlight, we have 36 ATP. If you guys know these two sections and these two balanced equations, it's going to make this top section much easier. So what I want to first go over are the prefixes air and ana, okay? Ana means without. So if I'm talking about anaerobic respiration, that means without oxygen. That's when we're going to go through lactic acid and alcoholic fermentation. When I talk about aerobic cellular respiration, oxygen is required. So yes, in normal, perfect environment, highway route, we are going to use aerobic cellular respiration, and oxygen is required. Now, in both forms of lactic acid fermentation, no, we don't need oxygen, but we're not going to produce as much ATP. So first, what are the raw materials of cellular respiration? Guys, what are the reactants? Oxygen and glucose. So we've got oxygen and glucose, okay? And what are the products? What is produced? We've got carbon dioxide, we've got water, and we've got, most important thing, ATP. The bulk of cellular respiration, although glycolysis is part of it, all of the aerobic parts of it, so the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain, happens in the mitochondria. And types of cells where this occurs, an example is you, okay? Also, plants do both aerobic cellular respiration and photosynthesis. Now, after glycolysis, if we find out that we do not have oxygen, we can't go to the mitochondria. We have to stay in the cytoplasm because we don't have oxygen. And when we get there and stay there, and we can't go through the two steps of cellular respiration that are in the mitochondria, we look at the raw materials. Guys, that ultimate energy source that we utilize, we don't have oxygen, so that's not it. What's this? Glucose. Think about what's going in to that process. So both of these require glucose. And their products are pretty self-explanatory. In lactic acid, this happens in the muscle cells. This is why we get cramping, okay? And it produces lactic acid in your muscles. And the only way you're going to get those cramps gone is by exposing them to oxygen or bringing more oxygen to those areas. And that's why stretching and drinking water is so important, because that allows that bloodstream to get to those muscle cells and expose them to oxygen. Now, in alcoholic fermentation, we produce not only alcohol, but this is where we use yeast to help us make certain cheeses, like Swiss cheese with those holes in it, and also breads and alcohols, okay? So think about what the yeast does. It creates bubbles in alcohol. It also creates a rising ability in bread, and it creates bubbles in cheeses like Swiss. Well, guys, we don't have oxygen. So what's the other gas that's exposed to? Carbon dioxide.